Celebrimbor desires to pass away before disclosing the location of the rings to Sauron, even if Sauron needs them. Sauron utters something along the lines of, "There are many ways of keeping you alive." It's evident that he intends to torment him until he learns the truth. But it's exactly like how Celebrimbor informs him that he is now a slave to these creations. I believe Sauron probably finds it personally, loses control, and murders him. Furthermore, I believe that because it's so un-Sauron of him to be out of control, that truly enrages and upsets him. Guys, welcome back. There are many things to consider after Celebrimbor's death, which was one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the Rings of Power climax. The Lord of the Rings prequel on Amazon Prime Video explores a shortened version of J.R.R. Tolkien's Second Age of Middle-earth history. Given the title of the episode, it goes without saying that the creation of the Rings of Power is the pivotal moment in this era, and showing how Sauron accomplished this was imperative. One of the most significant plots for the show overall was his and Celebrimbor's in Season 2, and it was handled really well. For most of the 8 episodes, Sauron and Celebrimbor played a game of cat and mouse before the conclusion of the Rings of Power Season 2. Under the guise of Annatar, Sauron assumed an elven form and tricked Celebrimbor into believing he had been sent by the Valar to aid in the healing of Middle-earth. What followed was an intriguing character analysis of the main antagonist of the series and franchise, with the conclusion providing a wealth of information about Sauron's actual thoughts and emotions. Why Celebrimbor is killed by Sauron. Sauron is provoked by Celebrimbor by being mocked and insulted. In the second season finale of Rings of Power, Sauron had already showered Celebrimbor with arrows, leaving the elven smith wounded and debilitated on the ground. This makes it possible for them to have one last conversation in which Celebrimbor starts talking to Sauron honestly. Celebrimbor has spent the entire season getting to know Sauron better than anyone else. Even though he may have lost their power battle in the end, he also understands what drives the Dark Lord. Sauron responds to Celebrimbor's verbal abuse by saying he may prolong Celebrimbor's suffering by finding ways to keep the elven craftsman alive. Celebrimbor is now prepared to accept the tranquility he expects to find in the hereafter, and wishes to die. Celebrimbor eventually overcomes Sauron with threats of torture and kills him out of emotion and rage in Shores of the Morning, where Celebrimbor goes when he dies. Celebrimbor talks about passing away and entering Valar. In the last scene of the play, Celebrimbor talks wistfully of Shores of the Morning, reflecting on his destiny in the hereafter. Even though elves are immortal, their bodies might nevertheless perish in combat or from other causes. Therefore, Celebrimbor's death at the hands of Sauron puts him on a different route than those taken by boats to the west. After passing away, elves are transferred to the halls of Mandos, where their spirits are judged, and then they are reborn and transported to Valinor, the Undying Lands. Since the elven soul is immortal, they are capable of resurrecting themselves in new bodies. But after this, they're not going back to Middle-earth. Sauron is crowned the Lord of the Rings by Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor uses the franchise title to make fun of Sauron. Celebrimbor's greatest jab at Sauron is when he utilizes the name of the franchise to address the Dark Lord as the Lord of the Rings. This statement is accurate, but it's also a little ironic. Celebrimbor is a term used to describe how Sauron has given these rings so much of his blood and soul that even though he may control them, they also dominate him. This declaration admits that Sauron has prevailed and created the Rings of Power as he pleases, but it also implies that they will be the source of his demise. Celebrimbor foresees the destruction of Sauron and the One Ring. Too much of Sauron has been put into the rings. The next hilarious statement from Celebrimbor is, "In the end, I foresee one shall prove your utter ruin." Even though Sauron is currently in charge, he still remembers his defeat, as viewers have seen from the season premiere and Adar's betrayal at the beginning of the Second Age. It is quite touching for him to practically foretell Celebrimbor's death, since, despite everything, he values and respects Celebrimbor's opinions. And he is exactly correct, given what we know about the Lord of the Rings. In the Rings of Power, Sauron still hasn't produced the One Ring, but he will. Celebrimbor informs him straight out that one of the rings will be the cause of his demise, implying that Sauron's construction of the One Ring will serve as a last-ditch attempt at hubris. He goes all in on creating the One Ring and commits himself to it, knowing full well that he has already invested much in the 16 rings of dwarves and men. Thousands of years from now, Sauron's final demise will come from the destruction of the One Ring. Reasons for Sauron's tears after killing Celebrimbor. I'm angry at myself for getting out of hand. When the orcs show up to carry out his orders, Sauron experiences a rare emotional moment in which tears start to stream down his face after killing Celebrimbor. Knowing Sauron's mental state is crucial at this point, especially in light of his arrogance throughout the season. It is quite uncomfortable to see him look sad. After the Rings of Power's second season conclusion, actor Charlie Vickers discussed his role with The Hollywood Reporter. First of all, it's crucial to understand that Sauron's tears in this sequence were real, unscripted emotions that Vickers said came to him spontaneously. In his comments, he examines Sauron's treatment of the scene's emotion and explains why the scene around the tears was rearranged. There is true grief for all that is happening because Sauron had some respect for Celebrimbor, but the true anguish stems from his loss of control and his reckless murdering of the elven smith. How Celebrimbor can return in Season 3 of Rings of Power. Celebrimbor's corpse serves as a banner for Sauron when he battles the elves. Following the siege of Eregion, the Dark Lord leads his new orc troop west to continue attacking elven territory in the ongoing conflict between Sauron and the elves. He is portrayed in the books as using Celebrimbor's physical form as a banner for these victories, mocking him by skewering the elven smith with a stick in order to murder him. Some theories that aren't covered in Tolkien's history include the possibility that Sauron saw visions of Celebrimbor, or that Celebrimbor really existed as a wraith, like he is in Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Thanks for watching.